Features of modern African poetry. This includes imagery, as imagery employs a vivid descriptive language to create a mental image. Figurative language, this is used to convey ideas and emotions in a condensed manner. For example, similes, personifications, symbolism, and also metaphor. There is structure and form. This includes how a poem looks like, what's the outward picture of the poem, how does it look like. Like for example, when you say a sonnet has 14 lines. When you see a poem with 14 lines, you'll definitely know that it's a sonnet. There is rhyme. This is the repetition of similar sounds, and it usually comes at the end of the line of a poem, and it adds emphasis and enhances musicality. There is rhythm. Rhythm in many poems, this is used patterns of stressed and unstressed syllables. There is the economy of language. This is used to convey deeper meaning. There are many more, like emotions and condensed meaning. There is characteristics of modern African poetry, like for example, cultural identity. There is African feminism. There is oral tradition, multilingualism, social and political commentary. There is Pan-Africanism, and lastly, there is myths and symbolism. There are major African poets. As you all know that a poem is the eye, ear, and mouthpiece of the society. They usually play a crucial role in reflecting and conveying concerns and aspirations of the society that they belong to. The modern African poets include Wole Soyinka from Nigeria. There's also Chinua Achebe from Nigeria. Gungi wa Thiong'o from Kenya, our own. There's also Leopold Sedar Senghor from Senegal. And lastly, there's Ata Aido from Ghana, and there are more and more. There's importance of gender and feminism in modern African poetry. Many African women have really emerged as influential voices in modern African poetry. They have been able to explore themes related to gender, identity, and empowerment of women in the society. There's phases of modern African poetry. There are 4 phases that have been used to contribute in the emergence of modern poetry. This include the pioneering phase, the transitional phase, the modernist phase, and the contemporary phase. The pioneering phase and transitional phase falls in the period of colonialism, and the modernist phase and the contemporary phase, they fall under the period of liberation and independence. Trends in modern African poetry. Poetry in Africa has fully developed, with popularity rising to both poets and readers. Publicized prizes, i.e. the Commonwealth Poetry Prize and the Noma Awards, have been given to the best poets of the years. Poetry is a verbal art that is usually used to express feelings and attitudes in desperate times. The beauty of language, that is the authenticity of language, it has led to the strength of poets, where they adopt the oral poetic devices and techniques into writing. These challenges faced by modern African poets. Poets have faced a lot of challenges. For example, there is limited resources. There is language barrier, where they're unable to communicate to other tribes apart from where they come from. There is publishing opportunity. They have no money to publish their writings. There is cultural, political factors, where they can't write anything else apart from their culture, and this becomes a problem for them to go and write about another culture or outside their own home. There is economic constraints. Without money, you can't travel out there, you can't be able to publish your own poems. There's literary infrastructure, lack of literary infrastructure. There is stereotyping and prejudice. There's also lack of presentations, where if you don't have someone to help us in the upper parts. How will we be able to reach there if even ourselves doesn't have, it's called connections? Yeah. There are stylistic devices and their significance in modern African poets. There are very various types of stylistic devices like irony, symbolism, metaphors, all that, name them. So, African poets use vivid and evocative imagery to convey their ideas and emotions. They usually draw on the richness and the landscapes of wildlife and everyday life to create power and also for memorable poetic images. Functions of modern African poets. A poet, as we said, is the eye, the ear, and the mouthpiece of the society. They play a vital role in reflecting and interpreting, and also conveying the experiences, concerns, and aspirations of the society in which they belong to. They also address and engage the social, political, and cultural issues of their respective societies. The poets also critique and comment on the societal issues, hence keeping the society at task. Thematic concerns in modern African poetry. There are many themes that I've narrowed down to only 5, 6. Cultural identity, there's colonialism and post-colonialism, social injustices and inequality, corruption and misuse of power. There's also struggle and hardships.